Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and you guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I stumbled across a video by Nick's Strength and Power, who I oftentimes call Nick's G for P. And normally I give Nick a hard time because of his whole bodybuilding worship. But I felt like he made a video that was relatively insightful. Not that I agreed with everything in it, because there's definitely some points in there that I thought were bizarre or just flat wrong. But overall, good video, so I want to talk about it. So let me put on my +5 hat of Speechcraft, and let's get into it a little bit. All right, he made a video discussing reality versus fiction on Instagram, and then he raised a few points that I thought were interesting. Now, the only thing I will say straight up front that I disagree with, maybe things have been different in these later generations, but he had said when he was younger and he started lifting, that he was the only younger guy at the gym, and that Instagram and the internet helped people get into the gym. And it's like, what? I mean, to me, that's absolutely ludicrous. I've never even heard such a thing. I'm, again, an older school guy. I first started getting into strength training like 20 years ago. I don't know what he's talking about. Gyms were packed full of teenagers and guys in their 20s, and guys who were in there trying to get their bench up to 300, guys who were trying to get their squat up to 400. That was normal, and gyms would be crowded, and you would see a pretty wide age range of guys. So it's like, I'm really not sure where he got that idea. Or maybe he lived in a different world. Maybe when I was younger, starting out down in Texas, it was different. Maybe people just lift a lot more here. But there was plenty of younger guys who were in the gym training hard and trying to get jacked and trying to get strong. But I guess he's saying that maybe guys who are focusing just on the physique aspect. Now, if that's what he means, guys who are saying, hey, I want to be a physique competitor, that's a relatively new thing, right? You didn't see that 15, 20 years ago in gyms. That was almost unheard of for a younger guy to be in the gym with a bodybuilding goal. But a lot of guys were in there wanting to look better. They were in there wanting to get strong. They wanted to get jacked. They wanted to get big. Like that was pretty normal. Or they wanted to get better at sports or whatever. I mean, that was always never a problem. Gyms were crowded. They were crowded. But again, different era, different world, I suppose. Maybe where he lives, that wasn't the case. So he made that point, which I thought was weird. But he did talk about part of the problem with Instagram and the fact that it does lead to false expectations. And when I've looked at it, he is right about all the photoshopping and stuff. But what, again, also I thought was bizarre is that he said, well, everyone photoshops and uses the best lighting and angles. And it's like, really? I guess, again, let's go over, that's the physique world, not necessarily people who are training for strength training. Because in my case, I don't know how to use filters. I don't understand any of that stuff. It's outside of my purview. And me these days, I just train in a pair of short shorts. That's what I train in. Unless I have to wear a shirt on an exercise that's going to be a problem with the barbell slipping. And it's just easier. I don't have to worry about getting clothes all sweaty in the Houston heat. And I get in and train, and it's not really a big deal to me. It's what I do. It's what I do these days, at least. So I guess I have a different view on it. I'm just like, it just is what it is, right? But I guess that's a point he's made, it that a lot of these guys go through a lot of trouble to not look how they actually look on their social media, and a lot of it does come down to being able to sell products. Comes down to maybe creating a distortion of reality for both men and women, and I agree, he's got a point there. But I guess the other point I will say is that what Nick needs to weigh out, and he's not going to weigh this out because I get it, it's his business model. He probably makes $500,000 a year off of YouTube. Like if I were to look at his channel, and I know what I make, I'm not going to get into that. It's more than enough to live on. But I know what I make, and I look at the size of his channel, and I just estimate with his traffic, he's got to be making $400,000 or $500,000 a year off of his just commercials. That's just what I would expect for a channel his size. So, I mean, I get it. He's going to keep covering the bodybuilding thing because it's his meal ticket. He's, once he's a millionaire, and he gets tired of talking about bodybuilding, and he's got $1 million sitting in his savings account to invest in other stuff, he may just quit talking about the silly bodybuilding thing. But it is something he might want to weigh out in the meantime of, he is promoting unrealistic expectations with all these bodybuilders because he had said, well, a lot of bodybuilders, they might be using a lot of stuff. No, they are. They're all using a lot of stuff. There is no person who you have ever discussed in a positive light on your channel who doesn't use abuse levels amounts, not just use some stuff, abuse levels, because that is the only way to make it in pro bodybuilding. And I don't just mean, oh, they're using some stuff. They're using a lot of stuff all of them without exception. So makes that point that it can create unrealistic expectations, and that is reality. And anyone who's gone to different expos and stuff, I think you start to realize that of just how big of a fraud Instagram and stuff is. Not just photoshopping, but fraud stats. I mean, people actually think these guys are bigger than they are. I mean, truth be told, it's like I've used Jeff Seid as an example. Right? We remember years ago, and I've met Jeff Seid at an expo. He did kind of take off. He didn't want anything to do with me because there were possible conflict there. But totally different topic, not worth getting into. Guys like Jeff Seid who claimed they were 6 foot tall with 18-inch arms, right? Internet stats. And in a picture by himself flexing and oiled up and Photoshop, sure, people might buy it. Till you see him in person and then you realize, wait, this guy's like 5'9", right? Jeff Seid is 5'9". I have met him. He is 5'9". I would bet 100 grand on it, give or take an inch. In other words, if we were to go measure him without shoes in a doctor's office, I would be willing to bet tens of thousands of dollars he's not over 5'10". Simple reality, I've met him. And I know how tall I am, and I can perceive how tall someone else is in front of me relative to my height. He is not 6 foot. He is less than 6 foot, by at least 2 to 3 inches. Same thing, was claiming 18-inch arms. Yeah, maybe 15, maybe 16. Now, they were lean 15 to 16-inch arms. But that's what he had at the time, while claiming 18-inch arms, 6 foot tall, whatever. That was internet stats, and then that was reality. Simeon Panda, I mean, guy looks massive, and Simeon is big, but Simeon's not 6'1". Right, he's not 6'1", I've met him. Kai Green is not 5'7", I've met him too, right? That dude's like a squidget, he's like 5'5", 5'6", like he's like down here, seriously. He's way down there because I've stood 2 feet from him. These guys are not at the stats that you think they are on the internet. Most of these guys on the internet, they add 3 inches to their height. They add 2 to 3 inches to their arm measurement, just straight up on numbers they put up, right? Then you deal with the photoshopping, all the lighting, people prepping for photo shoots, the best angles, maybe even running through different things they do to get drier the day of the shoot. I mean, how many people think of that too? You need to understand a lot of these guys, they might take a photo once a week, right? Or girls, and this is before any Photoshop. You know, a lot of them actually run themselves through a process of carb depletion and loading and using alcohol and sodium loading methods and stuff to make themselves look more ripped than they actually could be 3 or 4 days in a row. They can't maintain that peak. They do like a mini peak all the time. They get on camera, because I've known guys who do this, and they get on the camera and snap some photos with the perfect lighting and just a little bit of filtering, and it's like it doesn't create a realistic expectation. And I think that is a valid point that needs to be made, because people see that and say, hey, you know, if I do what he does, I could look like him. And it's like, he doesn't look like him. Like, what he does doesn't make him look like him. He doesn't look like that photo. Not only is there lighting and a little bit of filters and stuff going on, that guy actually went out of his way to look that way, and a week before and a week after, he didn't look like that even in person. So there's manipulation that he does to his own body, then there's manipulation with lighting, and then there's manipulation with filters and everything else, and it doesn't create a reality. You combine that with the fake stats, fake height, fake weight, fake arm measurements, and then the women is a whole nother ball game. Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, it creates this whole fake thing, and it could be nice if it inspires you. Hey, I'll agree. I might not like the physique stuff. I might think it's ridiculous, but here's what I will say. I would rather most people get in the gym and train, right? I would rather everybody get in the gym and train. Society would be better. Our health would be better. People would be more positive. It's actually a good therapeutic outlet. Like, people would be emotionally healthier if they trained. They would be physically healthier if they trained. The world would, in general, probably be a better place in most of our countries if everybody got into shape, right? There's a lot of benefits. So it's a good thing if it gets people in the gym. But there is that downside to it. Creates some fakeness, and it creates examples of things that people think they're going to achieve and they aren't. And then it comes over to, maybe if I just buy their products. And I think he's got, again, a valid point there. Instagram is a sell-based platform, meaning no one's making passive income, right? YouTube, we make passive income. There's plenty of people on YouTube who just off their ads alone earn 6-7-figure incomes. Again, chatting with other fitness YouTubers, not going to get into examples. I know someone personally who makes anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year off their YouTube commercials. All right, that's pretty good. that's pretty damn good. I'd kind of like to be at that level. So you have people who are doing that, and there are people who are millionaires off of it, and it's passive. And if they choose to sell stuff on the side, they can. That's why Nick does what he does, why he sticks to YouTube, and he admitted that. And that's also probably why he covers bodybuilding, because he wasn't passionate about bodybuilding a few years ago. He really wasn't. He knew that's where he could make his money. And I get it, man. I get it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it. And it's not, it doesn't have to sell products to do it. You go over to Instagram, and it is about selling. So fakeness, to create false advertising that has no laws or rules in place saying you can't put up a Photoshop picture and use it to sell your program or your supplements. It does create an environment of fraud. And I think that is a real concern, because a thing like Instagram, if you get a massive following, you're still not going to earn passive income until you sell something. And so they have to make that hard sell, and they've got to do whatever it takes in order to make that sale. And if that means, tits and ass on camera, if that means whatever they got to do, that means photoshopping, it means filters, whatever it is that they have to do to sell that product, to lie, blast trend, whatever. They do what they have to do in order to make that money, because that is their income, that's their job. But the problem is that it creates an enormous environment for fraud, which a lot of it basically is. And so he's got a good point there. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.